Joining us now is senior analyst at Zogby Analytics, John Zogby. John, welcome to the forum.
Thank you, Francesca. How are you?
Two things that stood out from the polls were the Democrats' losses in key demographics.
Yeah, absolutely, sure.
Young voters were favoring Republicans on national security 31 to 24%. And female voters were equally supportive, with 30% of support going to Republicans and 26% to Democrats. With an issue like national security, women and younger voters tend to side with Democrats simply because of their passive nature. What do these numbers mean for Obama administration?
Well, it's a very troublesome sign. You know, as you point out, I mean, traditionally, these have been the bailiwick of the Republican Party. In fact, if you go back to 2004, John Kerry led George W. Bush on 9 out of 10 issues, except George W. Bush led John Kerry better than 3-1 on national security. That was enough to reelect Mr. Bush. Barack Obama has been able to neutralize that sentiment, and in fact, as you pointed out in your opening, bring the Democrats into the lead in terms of public perception. The fact that, number one, you have overall Democrats now losing on these two issues, but more importantly, losing on two key demographics: women who are expected to vote Democrat and younger voters who have been voting Democrat since Barack Obama in 2008. You've got something that could be a leveling issue for Republicans, could help them in 2014 and 2016.
Well, John, specifically with those younger voters there, I wanted to ask you how much influence the kind of neo-isolationist policies that we hear from some of the libertarian-leaning Republican candidates and their loyal following of very young folks, how is that impacting these poll results?
Well, the premise is right. I wouldn't use the word isolationism. I'd use instead a different sort of globalism, a recognition on the part of younger voters that American power just isn't what it was or what it used to be in terms of clarifying global hotspots. You know, what they have seen actually is what they've lived throughout their lives, really the failure now of two wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and a sense that American military forces are spread too thin, and that there are regional hotspots where the United States just can't really make a difference. So that is the reality. That's the recognition. They don't want us to just come home and be isolated. What they want, however, is for America to be able to use smarter power, a softer power, a cultural influence.
Now, John, the Republicans led the Democrats on national security, foreign affairs and diplomacy and the budget and taxes, but the Democrats were still ahead on education, healthcare and the environment. What do the areas in which the Republicans are ahead tell us about the public's mood?
Well, I mean, essentially, Democrats usually do win on softer issues. Softer issues meaning, you know, healthcare, education, the environment, and so on. We have to see how this campaign shapes up, you know, as we head into September. If it's going to be fought on healthcare, for example, or on global warming, those are issues not only the Democrats lead on, but those are issues that can bring women, particularly younger women, and younger voters in general back into the Democratic fold. So Republicans now have to ensure that come September that they're fighting this campaign on their turf. Probably drop the emphasis on Obamacare, because they're going to need to cut into women and cut in to younger voters, and now talk about national security, talk about Edward Snowden, in fact, and talk about how the Obama administration has let libertarian-leaning people down. This should be fought then on issues that the Republicans can claim to be more comfortable.
All right, well, John, let's talk a little bit about the personalities involved in some of your polling as well, specifically Hillary Clinton, Jeb Bush, and who do the American public feel like is better equipped right now? And you can see the poll results here. Hillary Clinton far outpacing Jeb Bush. Was there any surprise here? I mean, Hillary Clinton certainly seems to be the inevitable nominee for the Democratic Party. Jeb Bush coming along a little bit later. Also, Clinton far out ahead of Christie, who's been talked about a little bit more, I guess, in length as a potential GOP nominee. Jeb Bush maybe just a little bit as of late, more recently, coming into the fray there. But what do those numbers tell you about where Mrs. Clinton stands right now against some of her potential GOP rivals?
Well, right now, Mrs. Clinton is running against herself. That's the thing that we have to understand. There's only one thing or two things, actually, that can stop Hillary Clinton in her tracks, and that would be, not unexpectedly, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. So she's out there by herself. When she's matched against Republicans, prominent Republicans, even more moderate Republicans, as you see here, I think what's particularly newsworthy is that she's under 50% for the first time in my polling. That's something to pay attention.
And do you think she'll be able to counter that? She's about to hit the media circuit. Her book's about to come out. She's going to be doing a lot of interviews, a very public position, certainly a lot of material there for her to discuss with the media. Do you think she will be able to change that as she does this book tour?
If she defines the terms in the book tour. But if it's going to be about old news and old stories, that's going to be problematic for her. And it's going to dredge up the notion that electing another Clinton is same old, kind of the thing that dogged her in 2007 and early 2008. On the flip side of this, though, is you see the essence of the Republican problem, though, and that is that here are two prominent names scoring essentially in the low to mid 30s against a prominent Democrat. And it shows that the Republicans going into 2016 have a significant demographic problem. There will be more African American, Latino, Asian American voters, and Republicans are absolutely nowhere with those groups. And at the same time, they have a real problem with younger voters. I think that if, as we talked earlier, they could close the gap a little bit in this election among younger voters on some of those foreign policy, national security issues, maybe they can help themselves going into 2016. But at least for now, the two of their chief presidential contenders are not doing well at all. Three of them, actually, too, because Rand Paul wasn't doing well either.
Well, Rand Paul does have a lot of support within the younger generation in the Republican Party itself.
Yes,
An interesting point, you bring that up there. And you know, we'll see what happens to these poll numbers as we see some of these politicians try to get out there, make some of these stops in Iowa, in New Hampshire to kind of telegraph what they're going to be doing ahead to 2016. John Zogby, thanks so much for being with us. Always great to get your take. You take a pulse of the nation on some of these issues, and always good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, John Zogby from Zogby Analytics there. Pollster we check in with from time to time, but interesting that he said the fact that Clinton's support has dipped below 50% recently. Certainly her name has come up a lot with Benghazi and other measures. I'm sure she's going to very pointedly make a point to get out in front of those stories when she does these book tours.
I think so, John.
All right, you looking forward to reading her book?
I am. I will be reading it.
All right, Hillary Clinton's book, Hard Choices, coming out very soon. We'll see her on doing a lot of interviews. What do you think? What do you think about Hillary Clinton's chances in 2016? Her poll numbers right now dipping below 20%, or I should say 50% according to Zogby Analytics there. You can reach out to us on social media. Find us on Twitter at NewsmaxTV, the hashtag there, America's Forum, or on Facebook, facebook.com/NewsmaxTV. More ahead here on America's Forum after this.